Many of you will have seen a graph which is based on collecting trapped air from ice cores in the Antarctic, which is an almost unbelievable thing to do. And it traces the amount of CO2 in the air from 800,000 years ago right up to the present. And it's a beautiful line which has regular bumps up and down, which shows glaciation periods and the hot and cold cycle for all sorts of reasons. And then it comes to a point where it goes straight up. That's why it's called the hockey stick curve. And the ability to draw this curve is no less culture than is the ability to read poetry or to put on theatre. And the beauty of that curve and its kind of ominous message, and the fact that we can draw that curve, the very fact that we can draw a curve like that which says what happened 800,000 years ago, and thereby observing what's around us, predict with some certainty what might happen next. That ability to do it is exactly the same ability that is going to help us stop the worst thing happening. And I think that on the one hand, that curve shows something terrible and potentially disastrous, and to me it shows something ultimately optimistic and the most extraordinary faculty that we have. Now, scientists draw those curves. I'm an architect. I build buildings. That's also an art. And in doing that, we have a great responsibility in the built environment, because we, through the use of buildings, humankind emits 50% of all its greenhouse gases. And we can do something about that, because buildings don't move. They're the easiest things to deal with in terms of energy. And I'm pretty confident that we can now build new buildings which are virtually zero carbon, with a little bit of input of decarbonized energy. But we require a ground to make all that possible, and that's what we look to governments for. So we have scientists, we have engineers, architects, and so on. We have the government. But the governments actually get their mandate from people. And I think that the greatest role of art and poetry, and I think that Mario showed this instantly, actually, by sort of converting very complex ideas into directly communicable and simple form. The greatest role of art is actually to enthuse everyone to the cause, that although they might not be able to draw those graphs and those hockey sticks, that there's a lot to do that every one of us can do in this sphere. And the imperative for us in Copenhagen to reach an agreement is overwhelming. And one of the roles of art, and art has always been brilliant at this, any form of art, theatre, poetry, and others, is to campaign and agitate and convert governments, but at the same time to enthuse people to believe that rather than doom and gloom, which is how climate change is often presented, there is lots that we can all do. And it's entirely, almost entirely optimistic, because the steps we take to mitigate climate change actually end up making a far better world, a far more interesting world. And the ultimate thing is that this is an area in which no action is too small. As long as you know how big your action is, as long as you don't claim something for not flushing the toilet, as long as you don't claim that not flushing the toilet is all you need to do to save the planet, it is actually really important not to flush the toilet inappropriately.